Discovery and mystery. The Arctic wind howled across the barren landscape, whipping snow into blinding torrents that stung any exposed skin with icy needles. Through this frozen hell trudged Dr. Kai Reeves, his environmental suit's heating elements struggling against the brutal cold. Behind him stretched a caravan of scientific equipment hauled by specialized vehicles, their tracks cutting dark lines through the pristine white. "How much further?" crackled a voice through his comm. "According to satellite imagery, just over this ridge," Kai replied, his breath fogging his helmet. "Satellite thermal readings are off the charts even though visual shows nothing unusual." They crested the hill, and Kai stopped dead in his tracks. The valley below should have been empty, just another stretch of featureless tundra. Instead, a massive shape jutted from the ice like a prehistoric beast frozen mid-lunge. "My God," whispered Dr. Lena Okafor, his research partner, as she joined him at the ridge. "It's real." What lay before them defied conventional explanation. A colossal structure of dark, iridescent material that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Despite being half buried in ice, they could make out smooth curves and angles that spoke of artificial design. No aircraft or vessel of Earth origin came close to matching its otherworldly architecture. "It wasn't here 3 days ago," Kai said, checking his instruments. "Thermal imaging shows it's generating heat, but the visible spectrum camouflage must have failed in the storm." Within hours, the site transformed into a hive of activity. The international scientific consortium that funded Kay's expedition had emergency protocols for first contact scenarios, though no one had ever expected to implement them. Military forces from several nations established a perimeter while scientists set up preliminary scanning equipment. Initial scans show no signs of radiation or biological hazards, Lena reported, her dark eyes fixed on the readouts. "The material doesn't match any known element on Earth." Kai nodded, only half listening. Something about the vessel called to him, a sensation he couldn't rationalize. As a quantum physicist specializing in theoretical energy systems, he built his career on intuition as much as calculation. "I think it's dead," said Dr. Werner Klein, the aerospace engineer who'd flown in from Germany overnight. "No power signatures, no electromagnetic fields. Probably crashed here centuries ago." "Then why is it warm?" Kai countered. "And why did it suddenly appear now?" 3 days later, a makeshift base surrounded the alien vessel. The world's governments had agreed to a rare collaboration, though the undercurrents of competition were impossible to miss. Russian military observers watched American scientists with suspicious eyes. Chinese and European teams claimed separate sections for study. Meanwhile, corporate interests lobbied for private access. Kai led the first exploration team into the vessel through what appeared to be a breach in its hull. The interior defied expectations. No seats, no controls, no anything that resembled a spacecraft's functional components. Just smooth corridors that curved in impossible geometries, walls embedded with dull, lifeless crystalline structures. "This is useless," complained Colonel Harris, the U.S. military liaison. "No weapons, no propulsion system we can identify. It's an empty shell." Similar sentiments echoed throughout the base as days turned to weeks. The vessel became known as the Dud, an alien artifact of immense scientific interest, but no practical value. Nations began scaling back their investments, leaving only dedicated research teams. But Kai remained obsessed. At night, he dreamed of the crystalline formations glowing with inner light. During the day, he mapped the vessel's interior, noting patterns that others dismissed as random aesthetics. "There's a system here," he insisted to Lena one evening. "These crystal formations aren't decorative. They're dormant components." "Components of what?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. Kai had barely slept in days. "A network," he replied. "The entire ship is one integrated system. We're looking at it wrong, trying to find separate engines, weapons, controls. But what if the entire structure is a single technology?" Lena sighed. "Kai, 3 different nations have sent their best engineers. Nobody's found a way to activate anything. Because we're using the wrong approach, Kai said, pulling up his research notes. These crystalline structures respond to quantum fluctuations, not mechanical inputs or electrical currents. The breakthrough came a month later. After developing a device that could generate specific quantum field patterns, Kai managed to activate a single crystal node. It pulsed with soft blue light, sending ripples of energy through the surrounding material. "It's responding," he exclaimed as Lena and a handful of remaining scientists watched in awe. "The ship isn't dead, it's in standby mode." One crystal became 2, then a dozen, a network of light spreading through the vessel's interior like a awakening nervous system. Corridors that had seemed empty now revealed intricate patterns, and rooms previously overlooked suddenly manifested with holographic displays in an alien language. News spread quickly. Nations that had withdrawn their support scrambled to return. Military forces increased around the perimeter as the situation was reclassified as a potential security concern. "We've identified what appears to be a central chamber," Kai reported to the newly formed International Xenotechnology Commission. "The crystal activations are spreading outward from there." The central chamber defied human understanding. A spherical room where gravity seemed optional, with floating crystalline structures orbiting a dark core that seemed to swallow light. As Kai and his team studied it, the ship began to communicate, not through language, but through mathematical principles displayed in holographic form. "It's teaching us," Kai realized. "The mathematics are too advanced for our current understanding, but it's giving us a progression, building our knowledge step by step." Tensions mounted outside. Russia accused the United States of weaponizing the technology. China demanded equal access to all discoveries. European nations called for restraint while quietly developing their own research branches. 3 months after the initial discovery, Kai made the connection that would change everything. "The ship isn't just a vessel," he explained to the assembled scientists and military officials. "It's a tool, or more accurately, a seed." "A seed for what?" asked General Yamamoto of the Japanese Self-Defense Force. "For transformation," Kai replied. "The mathematical principles it's showing us are instructions for manipulating matter at the quantum level. This isn't a conventional starship at all. It's a terraforming and construction platform." The revelation sent shockwaves through the global community. A technology that could reshape matter itself had implications beyond anything in human history. "And it's not damage," Kai continued. "It was left here, deliberately, like a gift or a test." That night, as a geopolitical storm brewed outside, something unprecedented happened. The central core activated fully, projecting a 3-dimensional star map throughout the chamber. At its center was Earth, marked with a pulsing symbol. "What does it mean?" Lena asked, her voice hushed with awe. Kai studied the alien mathematics surrounding the projection. I think it's asking for direction. The ship wants to know what we want to build." As dawn broke over the Arctic, humanity stood at a crossroads. The alien vessel wasn't the derelict or useless artifact they had initially believed. It was a key, a tool of unimaginable power that could elevate human civilization to the stars or tear it apart through conflict. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, its creators were watching, waiting to see what humanity would choose to do with their gift. Transformation and ascension. 6 months after the alien vessel's activation, the Arctic Research Base had transformed into a sprawling international compound. Massive hangars and laboratory complexes surrounded the ship, now partially excavated from its icy tomb. Armed guards patrolled reinforced perimeters, while satellites maintained constant surveillance from above. Inside the vessel, Kai Reeves stood in the central chamber, manipulating quantum field generators that interfaced with the alien crystal network. Holographic displays surrounded him, showing mathematical equations that would have been incomprehensible a year ago, but now formed the foundation of a new branch of human science. "The Russians are making another push through the UN Security Council," Lena informed him as she entered. They're claiming we've weaponized sections without international oversight. Kai sighed. They're not entirely wrong. The truth was uncomfortable, but undeniable. As they decoded more of the vessel's capabilities, military applications had become impossible to ignore. The technology could restructure matter at the quantum level, which meant it could also disassemble it. What started as a scientific expedition had evolved into something more complex and dangerous. The Chinese demonstration yesterday caused a panic, Lena continued. Using the vessel's technology to disintegrate a decommissioned satellite was unnecessarily provocative. And the Americans' new defensive shield isn't. Kai countered. Everyone's grabbing what they can adapt from the ship. No one's focusing on its actual purpose. That purpose had become clearer over time. The vessel wasn't primarily a weapon or even a conventional spaceship. It was a creation engine designed to transform environments and build megastructures. Its original makers had been architects on a cosmic scale, capable of reshaping worlds to their specifications. Humanity, however, saw opportunity through the lens of its own conflicts and insecurities. A sudden alarm blared through the facility. Kai and Lena exchanged worried glances before rushing to the control center. Inside, military personnel and scientists gathered around monitoring stations. "We have unauthorized activation in Section 7, reported Dr. Chen, the quantum systems specialist. Someone's attempting to harness the matter reconstruction protocols without proper containment." On the screens, a section of the ship glowed with intense energy as a team in unmarked environmental suits worked hurriedly at crystal interfaces. "Corporate espionage," growled Colonel Harris. "Probably Quantum Horizons trying to steal proprietary applications." "It doesn't matter who they are," Kai interrupted. "Those protocols aren't stable yet. They could trigger a cascading quantum collapse." He was right. Before security teams could reach Section 7, the unauthorized experiment spiraled out of control. Energy surged through the vessel's crystal network, overwhelming safeguards and triggering emergency containment protocols. In the chaos that followed, something unexpected happened. The ship, seemingly acting with autonomous intelligence, redirected the energy surge into dormant systems. Throughout the vessel, previously dark sections illuminated. In the central chamber, the core that had shown them star maps now projected something new, a figure. The holographic entity stood 8 feet tall, its form translucent and shifting, more suggestion than substance. It spoke, not in words, but in mathematical concepts that the ship's interface translated into approximations of human language. Premature activation sequence detected. Evaluation protocol initiated. The message echoed through every connected communication device in the facility. For the first time since its discovery, the ship was directly communicating. "What evaluation protocol?" demanded Harris, his hand instinctively moving to his sidearm. The entity's form shifted, becoming more defined. "This vessel is a Genesis engine, capability Class 9, designed for planetary transformation and defensive application. Your species has demonstrated sufficient technological aptitude for conditional access." Kai stepped forward. "We didn't understand its true purpose. We thought." "Your interpretations are irrelevant," the entity interrupted. "Your actions demonstrate your species' priorities. You have focused on weapons applications rather than constructive potential. This requires assessment." Within hours, the situation escalated beyond the Arctic base. Similar holographic entities appeared at every major government and military installation connected to the vessel's research. They delivered the same message. Humanity was being evaluated for worthiness to control the technology. Global panic ensued. Stock markets plummeted as corporations with investments in alien technology faced uncertain futures. Military forces worldwide went on high alert, unsure if they were facing an invasion or merely a test. In this chaos, Kai found himself summoned to an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council. Representatives from major powers gathered in New York, their faces grim with the weight of potential catastrophe. "Dr. Reeves," began the Secretary General, "you've worked most closely with this technology. What exactly are we dealing with?" Is this an artificial intelligence or contact with the aliens themselves? Kai approached the podium, acutely aware that the future of human civilization might hinge on his words. Neither, exactly. From what we've determined, the holographic entity is an advanced interface system, a gatekeeper program designed to assess whether a species is ready for the responsibility of the technology. And what happens if we fail this assessment? Asked the Russian representative. The ship has already demonstrated remote shutdown capabilities, Kai replied. I believe it could render itself permanently inert, or worse. Over the next days, a strange calm settled over the international community. Ancient rivalries and competitions were temporarily set aside as humanity faced its first truly unified challenge. The entity had established a simple but profound condition: demonstrate that humans could cooperate in using the technology constructively. This ultimatum produced an unprecedented diplomatic breakthrough. The International Genesis Accord was drafted, establishing shared control and oversight of all technology derived from the vessel. Nations pledged to focus first on humanitarian applications, addressing climate change, food security, and disease. Kai led the technical implementation, working with a multinational team to demonstrate humanity's constructive intentions. They selected a barren region of the Sahara Desert for the first major demonstration. Using principles learned from the vessel, they developed devices that could restructure soil composition at the molecular level, restoring nutrients and water retention capabilities destroyed by centuries of desertification. What would have taken decades of conventional rehabilitation happened in days. Green spread across the desert like spilled paint, creating arable land where only sand had existed for generations. The entity observed without comment, its holographic form present at each demonstration site. Similar projects unfolded worldwide, cleaning polluted waterways in Southeast Asia, neutralizing radiation zones around Chernobyl, stabilizing melting ice shelves in Antarctica. 3 weeks into this global effort, the entity manifested in the central chamber once more, its form now clearly resembling the vessel's creators, tall, elegant beings with features that seemed both insectoid and avian. Provisional assessment complete. It announced to the assembled leaders, your species demonstrates contradictory tendencies, capacity for cooperation alongside strong competitive impulses. This combination has been observed in 2 previous ascendant species. Ascendant species, echoed the Chinese premier. There are others like us. 17 species currently utilize Genesis technology within this galactic segment. The entity responded. The architects who created this vessel withdrew from direct intervention 300,000 local years ago, leaving evaluation protocols in place for emerging intelligences. And what is your evaluation of humanity? Asked the American president. The entity's form shifted, displaying a series of calculations and probability matrices. Humanity exhibits high innovation potential but significant self-destruction risk. Standard protocol would recommend limited access under supervision. Murmurs of disappointment spread through the chamber, but the entity continued. However, rapid adaptation to evaluation parameters suggests unusual potential. This instance will recommend provisional full access with monitoring. The implications were staggering. The entity explained that the Genesis engine, what they had been calling a vessel or ship, was one of many seeded throughout the galaxy. Species that demonstrated worthiness gained not just the technology but recognition within a larger interstellar community. The crystal network throughout the ship pulsed with new light as dormant systems activated fully. Holographic displays revealed the true capabilities they had only glimpsed: matter transformation on a planetary scale, energy generation that made nuclear power look primitive, defensive systems that could protect Earth from cosmic threats. This isn't just about technology, Kai realized as he studied the newly revealed systems. It's an invitation. 1 year after the initial discovery, the first human-piloted vessel constructed using Genesis technology departed Earth's atmosphere. Built not for war but exploration, it carried scientists and diplomats to the nearest Genesis hub, a massive space station orbiting Proxima Centauri, where representatives of other ascendant species awaited. Earth itself had begun a transformation. The Genesis engine's matter restructuring capabilities addressed ecological damage, resource scarcity, and energy limitations that had previously driven global conflicts. Nations still competed, but the nature of that competition had shifted toward contributing to humanity's new place among the stars. In the Arctic base, now transformed into a gleaming research center, Kai stood before a window overlooking the partially disassembled Genesis engine. Most of its components had been integrated into Earth's new technological infrastructure, its purpose fulfilled. "Do you think they planned this all along?" Lena asked, joining him at the window. "The architects, I mean. Leaving these seeds knowing someday we find them." Kai considered the question. "I think they understood something profound about intelligent life. That we need both challenges and opportunities, tests that force us to grow beyond our limitations." Beyond Earth's atmosphere, humanity's first interstellar vessels prepared for their maiden voyages. The weapons that nations had initially sought to create had instead become tools of creation and exploration. The useless alien ship had transformed not just human technology, but humanity itself. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, the ancient architects observed another species taking its first steps into a much larger universe.